Haskell champion now.
Hey guys, welcome into another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I am James Haskell here with my co-host Glenn Martin. This episode is going to be interesting. We are going to talk about the Ravens' all-time starting lineups in our opinion. This is our list, so if you don't like them, deal with it. But these are our lists. So Glenn, what are the parameters by which we are making these lists?
Yeah, so we decided to create a list of basically if you were entering the postseason. So if the season has just ended, you're now starting your postseason run. We didn't want it to be a full season. We didn't want it to be a full 53-man, but we also didn't want it to be just for one game. So we wanted to make sure it's at least a full playoff run. So depending on if you get the number one seed, with this lineup, they would probably get the number one seed. So we'll say 3 games to win it all. So you're going into the playoffs. What's your lineup, all-time Ravens? Now, we're not talking about what they did on other teams. This is only on their merit based on what they did as a Raven wearing that purple and black. So if you wanted to put Steve Smith on your roster, you can't talk about what he did in Carolina. It's only about what he did in purple and black. So let's get right into it. All right. What position do you want to start with?
Well, let's go with old quarterback. I mean, no better place to start.
All right, QB. Now, this was not easy, because we just had Lamar Jackson coming off of maybe the greatest season by a quarterback, certainly up there, one of the greatest seasons ever by a quarterback. But it's just that. It's one really, really great season. So to me, the quarterback number one still on my depth chart is your boy, Joe Flacco.
Oh.
And that's right. And he is backed up by Lamar Jackson going. And it's just like Lamar's rookie year when he was backing Joe up and coming in and running some gadget plays. But with that run that Flacco went on, the greatest postseason running quarterback by a quarterback in history, how do you not have Joe starting on your playoff team?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. While I gave that reaction, I have the same exact lineup or same exact breakdown as far as quarterback goes. Joe Flacco is my starter. Lamar Jackson is my backup. Reasoning behind that is because while a lot of people that are Lamar haters believe he will never do anything in the playoffs and he chokes, I just think it's a matter of progression. And at this point, as far as what we've seen, Joe Flacco is most proven going into a playoff run. So for me, I'm going with Joe. Lamar is my backup. All right. Well, that wasn't too controversial or too eventful. I think the next position group, though, I'm really excited about will provide a little bit more fireworks. So we're going to go to running back. And just so you guys know, right now we're doing offense and special teams. We're going to put out a defensive video following this.
Yes.
So this is our running back room, and we decided to go with 3 backs.
3 backs. Yep. And who's your 3 backs there, Jimbo?
So back number 1, Jamal Lewis. Your boy, Jamal. The stutter-stepping dancing bear, dude. Remember those little stutter steps?
Choppy little steps, man. Oh, yeah.
So Jamal's my number 1. Hey Diddle Diddle, Ray Rice up the middle is my number 2. And big boy, no little boy, Mark Ingram is my number 3. That's
Mark Ingram. Make sure – hold on.
Yep.
How many years has Mark Ingram been a Raven?
It doesn't matter. Mark is –
Oh, it matters.
It's crazy because you know that I was not super high on Mark preseason last year because I thought there was redundancy between him and Gus. And obviously, yes. Mark is so damn good. I just couldn't leave him off the list. I just couldn't.
Disrespectful. Well, let me tell you the real list, okay? Because you're right. Jamal Lewis, he better be the top of every Ravens fan running back depth chart. He better be. I mean, and right behind him, it's got to be everybody's number 2. It's got to be Ray Rice. I mean, who knows what would happen if those events didn't transpire. He may have made his way to the number 1 guy on our list, but we'll never know. But number 3, without a doubt, has got to be Mr. Willis McGahee. I mean, disrespectful. A 1-year guy. Look, I like Mark Ingram, but he was here for 1 year. Willis McGahee was here for 4 years, okay? So, to me, I mean, I don't know. Now, I like Ingram, but, yeah, Willis, he had a 1,200-yard season with us. He had a 12-touchdown year. with us. So I got to go with Willis.
You got it.
I got to go with Willis. I think he had some obviously very memorable runs. I remember when he had, I believe it was Brewski. He had him spun around, and he was using him as a blocker by pushing him in the back. It was incredible.
Similar to what Derrick Henry did to Earl Thomas?
Similar, but you got to remember Brewski was a linebacker, and Earl Thomas is an undersized safety. So to do that to a linebacker is incredible. Yeah. But, yeah, I got to go with McGahee. 4 years to 1, Jimmy.
I'll say this in my defense. When you talk about versatility, I think Mark's got McGahee beat, right? Like he's a better catcher of the football out of the backfield.
Yeah, but he didn't even – I don't know. I mean, he did good with that last year, but he didn't even really display that until he got to Baltimore last year because Kamara was taking all that. But
yeah. No, I totally get it. But, maybe it's recency bias. Mark just flashed. I mean, from the first play of the historical season last year, he went for 52. I think it was 52 or something like that in the first carry. And I was, you know what? Look, this guy is really good. Now, the only thing I can say, we're not talking about health. But the only reason I'm bringing this up because right when the playoffs came around, Mark Ingram wasn't too healthy.
That was bad luck.
Gosh.
Nothing you can do about that. But anyway, let's move on. Now, this position group is really interesting, and I'm interested to see who you have because we decided for this we're only going to keep 4 wide receivers. Now, we know that a typical 53-man roster has usually around 6, maybe 5. Somewhere in that range. But for this case, we wanted to make it a little more challenging because it's hard to make it down to just 4, even for the Ravens, who don't necessarily have historically great receivers in their past. So 4 receivers, you're going into the playoffs. Who's your 4, Jimbo? I'll tell you why you're crazy.
Let's do this. Let's name them one at a time. We'll go back and forth. Is that fair? You let me know if you have the same guy. Is that all right?
That's fair.
All right. Anquan Bolden.
Got to have Anquan on there, no doubt about it, right?
So we both got Anquan.
Hold on, let's talk about why. I mean, I guess we don't have to talk about why. Everybody knows Anquan. He's a beast, right?
And if you don't have Anquan on your list, you should never be a Ravens fan again. I mean, why wouldn't you? That's the real question.
Yes, I agree. He's definitely on the list. He wasn't here long, which I find interesting because I think a lot of fans just assume he's been here long. He was only here for 3 years, but it was an impactful 3 years. So I got to agree. Bolden's on the list. Go ahead.
All right, so I'm going with my number 2, and we already disagree here. He was, speaking of 3 years, Steve Smith. Even in his advanced age as a Raven, I think his versatility to play outside and inside, he can go take the deep ball, and he can be more of a possession receiver. His physicality, his toughness in the locker room, all of it. I just couldn't leave Steve Smith off. He is a Raven. Period. End of story. So my number 2, Steve Smith. Who you got?
Well, so I guess I should go the one. Okay, all right. Well, you mentioned it. He was only here for 3 years, so I didn't have Steve Smith on my list. Not to mention that one of those years he played in less than half of those games. He only played in 7 games, so really he was here for 2.5 years. Okay, so I couldn't put him on my list. But a guy you left off your list is just disrespectful. And I get you're a young man, James. I get it. And that might be why you left this guy off. But let's not forget, okay, what Mr. Qadri Ismail did for this team and did for this organization, helping bring us our first world championship as our number one. You know, a lot of people forget what he was that year, okay? He caught 5 touchdowns that year, okay? I mean, he was only here 3 years as well, but 2 of those years he went over 1,000. All right, it's not like he was some slouch. This guy was our true number 1 receiver, and yeah, I got to put him on the list just because if you look at his numbers, he edges Steve Smith slightly, and yeah, so I'm gonna go with Qadri, and he's still with the broadcast team, so I got to show some love, and he came on our show, so you got to give him a little love. So yeah, I got Qadri. So who's your 3rd?
All right, but really quickly, I wonder if once we get – because, of course, we'll have Qadri on again. So we're going to ask for his list. Do you think he would put himself in the top 4?
Actually, I don't know. Initially, I go he'll be humble, but I don't know. Receivers sometimes can be a little bit
gotta be.
Yeah, you got to be pretty confident. So I would say he's going to put himself on that list. What do you think?
I think so. I think so as well. But he ain't on my list.
All right, well, who's your number 3?
Torrey Smith, dude. Now, I want to explain something. The way that I compiled this list is I wanted the receiver core to be complementary to one another, right? So Torrey, to me, is the best deep threat receiver we've had. When you're talking about taking a top off the defense and having just that straight line speed, and then Torrey has also, we're talking about playoff run, done big things in big moments.
Yeah.
So for me, Torrey has got to be on this list. While there might be other guys that statistically are better, or even just the eyeball test are better, Torrey, as far as big moments, big results, and then also stylistically complementing the other guys, he made my list as the number 3.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, for number 3, I got to go Lee Evans. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just playing. Now, I got to agree. Torrey Smith, it was sad to see him leave. Of course, him being a Terp and us following his career, at Maryland, and then him becoming a Raven, and you mentioned it, countless big time plays and big moments. Big time plays against teams like the Steelers and the Patriots when we were competing for mainly with them too in the AFC. He's phenomenal, and really sad that he never ended up coming back at some point to Baltimore. I think there was a chance right before he went to Carolina that he could have come back. And it would have been nice to see, but you're right. I mean, he was mainly just that. He was mainly just a deep threat. He picked up a lot of PIs for us in big moments as well, but mainly just a deep threat. So, yeah, I got to agree with you there. And number 4 on my list, and now these aren't in order. It's not like I'm putting him 4th behind Torrey, but he's just 4th on our list is Derek Mason. Derek Mason was actually, if I had to make a list, he might be 1 on the list if I actually had to put him in order. I mean, this guy to me, was just such a Raven. I mean, this guy, he played through injury. He was our clear leader, our best receiver. I think he leads in almost all receiving categories historically for us. So the guy's incredible. He went over, he was here with us for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. He went over 1,000 yards in 4 of those 6, and really his low year was 750. So incredible consistency. He played in 15 of the 16 games every year that he was with us. The guy was just incredible. And the toughness to play through injury. The guy was playing with one shoulder, still making catches and throwing guys off of him. So, yeah, got to go with Mason, and I assume you have him in there as well.
I got Old Faithful in there as well, the sideline magician himself. I mean, all the things you said I totally agree with. He did a lot for Joe Flacco's career at the beginning of his career. I just think that there's no way, just like Anquan, you can't leave him off the list. You can't, period. If there's 2 guys that you can't leave off the list.
Those 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the other 2, arguable, and I get it, but you cannot leave those off the list. So those are our wide receivers. The next one is going to be fun. We're going to tight ends.
We've had a few good ones here in Baltimore.
Just a couple.
So, to me, we're only taking 2 tight ends. Only 2, okay? So, to me, number 1 got to be your boy, Todd Heat. I mean, incredible player, great guy, a guy that, kind of unfortunate with the quarterbacks he came up with here in Baltimore, because I think they may have taken a couple years off of his career by not doing him many favors, going over the middle and stuff like that. But he was here for 10 years or something like that.
The Storm.
And I think, he had a lot of our receiving records, if not all of our receiving records when he left. Just an incredible player, and I think he's got to be the number 1 tight end for the Ravens on pretty much everyone's list.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, and I think that the reason, other than the longevity, the consistency, the constant security blanket, the consummate professional, all those things, I think that he might be to date our most well-rounded tight end that we've had.
A guy that can do both, yeah. No
right.
doubt.
Because we've had quote-unquote like specialists that might have been better pure receivers, or, I think it's safe to say that Nick Boyle's probably our best blocking tight end.
Yeah.
a mammoth of a man. But to, like you said, to be a true tight end, Swiss Army knife type guy, I think Todd has to be that guy to this day. So, absolutely, my number one as well. Number two, though, is where it gets interesting, Glenn, because I believe that we have a difference. My guy is, I went old school, I went new school, real new school again. Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is my number two guy. And while we were prepping this, I think that you mentioned somebody that I disrespected. So I think he made your list. Who's that guy?
Yeah, I mean, I got to go Shannon Sharp. I think Mark Andrews in a couple of years will unseat Shannon as the number two tight end on my list, but not yet. He hasn't done it long enough. Shannon may have only been here for 2 years, but he was here during, his first year was the Super Bowl run. So, of course, incredibly important to that run, but just incredibly consistent for those 2 years. He played in 15 of the 16 games both years. He had 67 catches in his first year, 73 in his second, and then 810 yards in his first year and 811 yards in his second year. So incredibly, incredibly consistent. Obviously, a big-time leader in the locker room, and integral to bringing the first championship to the Ravens. So, I mean, I think you're right. I think that Andrews will very quickly become the guy on the list, but not after just 2 years. So I got to go Shannon Sharp, although I respect your Andrews pick.
Yeah, I think it's hard for me now that you mentioned that. Obviously, it's hard to leave off a Hall of Famer. But if you compare their stats in the 2 years, not much of a difference, except that Andrew doubled him, if I'm not mistaken, in touchdowns. Right? Didn't Shannon have 5 or he had 7?
He had 5 in his best year, only 2 in his final year.
Right. So last year Mark had 10. So
yeah.
And then about 850 yards, very similar. So once again, might be some recency bias there, but I think that aside from Shannon Sharp would disagree with me about this as well. But the fact that Mark is so big and such a polished route runner and so coordinated, has such soft hands, he might be the most physically gifted tight end that we have because people forget about his legitimate size. He moves like Dennis Pitta, but he's almost the size of Nick Boyle, right? Like, I think they're the same height. He's just not quite as heavy.
But close, but not far off, yeah.
So to be able to do that at that size is really impressive. So for me, Mark Andrews, man.
Yeah. No, I mean,
and I'm not
okay. All right.
Glenn. All right, I'm not backing off from it.
Don't do it. I would hope you don't dare. All right, well, let's move on to fullback. We only decided to keep one fullback. A lot of teams don't keep any, but if you're a Ravens fan, we love our fullbacks here in Baltimore, and we've had quite a few, but they don't tend to stick around too long. So it's going to be interesting to see who you have. I'm going to start with my number one fullback, and I think it might surprise some people. And I may be getting, some interesting looks with this one. But I'm going to go Kyle Juszczyk. Now, look, he wasn't here that long, but not many fullbacks are in the Ravens' history. So I go with Juszczyk because of the Swiss Army knife that he was, because of the versatility that he brings. He's not just a guy that's going to go put his head in the hole and block somebody, okay? He's a guy that can carry the ball for you. And I argue that when he was here, he may have had the best hands on our football team as a fullback. The guy's got incredible hands. I mean, just unbelievable hands. Okay, he was here for 4 years. He had 4 touchdowns in 2015, receiving. So the guy can make some plays a little bit more than I think people give him credit for, and he was also a pretty darn good blocker. So I got to go with Kyle Juszczyk as my fullback. Jimbo, who you got?
No, man. So for me, when I want a fullback, in order of importance, like you said, sticking your head in the hole and clearing it out is number one. And the other stuff to me is just gravy. But if you can't do that at an elite level, you're not going to be on my all-time starting list for Ravens as far as fullback. So I'm going with Eastern Carolina University alum Vontae Leach. That's right, the bull in China shop himself. Vontae Leach. I mean, look, if you look at when Vontae was here, and this is what I will argue. Ray Rice is on both of our lists and has at least 40% of that to credit goes to Vontae.
40?
40. 1/3. How about 1/3? But if you watch the games that Rice had a good game, so did Vontae Leach, and he was moving bodies. So for that reason alone, I mean, while catching and receiving is great, obviously scoring touchdowns is great. At the end of the day, he was the best at doing the job that I think is the most important, and so the position for me goes to the original 44, Mr. Leach.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Humphrey having it, but yeah, okay. I understand that. I think there's some honorable mentions in there as well with LaRon McClain and now Pat Ricard, Project Pat. I think making his impact, and then of course Obafemi Adebayo back when we won our first Super Bowl. Sam Gash was a fan favorite for a little while, but yeah, okay, that's cool. That's cool. So let's move on to our offensive line. I think it's pretty safe to say two positions will be identical here. So let's get those out of the way early. Left tackle, Jonathan Ogden. He's the best to do it at that position, not just as a Raven, but in my opinion, league-wide. So I think that's a pretty easy choice. I think if you were making a list, NFL players, you'd probably still put him at left tackle, not just Ravens. So, and then right guard, as a Ravens fan, everyone knows and loves Marshall Yanda is definitely going to be on both of our lists as the right guard and might be on a good amount of people's lists, just like Ogden as far as NFL wide. So let's get them out of the way early. Ogden at left tackle, Yanda at right guard. So why don't you start us off at left guard as a spot where we might disagree?
Sure. So left guard for me is going to be Kelechi Osemele. Kelechi is going to be there for me. He helped us win a Super Bowl. He's an extremely athletic and long guard, true mauler, great partner in crime to Marshall Yanda as far as guards go. They were a great tandem. I mean, his sheer power, length, size, athleticism, I think he's the most athletic amongst the top guards we've had. And if I'm going for a playoff run, I want Kelechi in there. Who you got?
Well, I respect the Kelechi pick, but I think you're casting a little shade on a vet of Baltimore that deserves some respect. Okay, and that's Mr. Edwin Muatalo. Okay, he was here for 8 years. He was here during our first Super Bowl in 2000, blocking for Jamal. During those years when Jamal was running for 2000 later on in the career. So I got to go with my man Edwin. He was here for a heck of a lot longer, twice as much time, and certainly didn't disappoint when he was on the field. The guy's a heck of a player, and I got to go with Muatalo, and I'm disappointed in you.
Yeah, that's a great one. That's a really great one. I just think that over the years, and this is just my answer is a product of progression throughout the years, right? Like I think that LeBron James is a million times more athletic than Larry Bird. However, they get compared, right? Mm-hmm. But throughout the years, I think that guys have gotten bigger, faster, stronger, more athletic as the standard has gotten higher and more competitive. So with that being said, I think that Kelechi is just a better player because he's played more recently and dominated in a similar fashion more recently.
Okay, fair enough. All right, I disagree. So who you got at center?
Wait, what'd you say?
I said I disagree, but all right, go ahead.
All right. So
who you got at center?
I have the Harvard grad, Matt Burke, the now bodybuilding model. Once NFL center, Matt Burke, the smartest offensive lineman we've ever had.
Ooh, I don't know about that one.
You're right. What's his name?
John Urschel.
Okay, John Urschel, you got to give the John. Second smartest.
All right, there you go. That's fair. Okay, all right. Well, I like that pick. I think Matt Burke was essential to us winning that second Super Bowl. But how about a guy who helped us win our first one, a guy that may be a little bit older. Most people might have forgotten, but he was here from 98 to 2007, and he bounced around the line, both from guard and center, but played a heck of a lot of center as well. So I'm going to go Mike Flynn as my center. I love I like the positional versatility that he brings. Okay, if I'm starting a playoff run and I need to move and shuffle some guys around, I like to know that I can do it with confidence. And I like Mike Flynn to do both guard and center, but for this case, he will be my center. And all right. So who you got at right tackle there, Jimbo Slimbo?
Well, I have to say, in for the sake of full disclosure here, you saved me on this one because I almost
should have left you.
I almost went with his son, his offspring. All right, but look, Orlando Brown Jr. is not his daddy yet. Not saying he can't be one day, but if I'm not mistaken, his dad was undrafted and went through a little more to get to his success. So usually guys like that have the dog because it wasn't given to him, and then he ended up being the highest paid right tackle in the NFL, if I'm not mistaken, at one point. So I'm going with Zeus, the original Orlando Brown, the daddy, and that's where I'm going without a doubt.
Yeah, I think this one's kind of a no-brainer as well. If he didn't have the eye issue, I believe he got hit in the eye by a flag thrown by a referee, and it cost him some time in the NFL. I think there's no doubt if he wasn't injured that he would have had a much more illustrious career than he ended up having. But yeah, I mean, to me, he's a no doubt, no-brainer. He spent 6 years in Baltimore. The rest of his time was spent with the Browns in Cleveland. And I think he would have played more seasons with the Ravens had he not had the issue with the eye. And, yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool that his son's now holding down that right tackle spot and doing a heck of a job. Pro Bowler last year. I think it's really cool. I think his son actually has a good chance at unseating his father and taking over that all-time best right tackle if he keeps his progression the way he's going. And we end up signing him to a long-term second contract, and there's no reason he can't take over his father's position at right tackle. But right now, Zeus is manning it, and I'm pretty happy knowing I got him on the right side.
There you go. No, I like it as well. All right, so let's move on. We've covered the skill positions on offense. We've covered the slobber knockers up front. And, man, that is a hell of an offensive line. I tell you what. Whew.
Terrifying.
All right, so let's move on to special teams. Now, for the sake of not being redundant, for the sake of redundancy, I think that we have the same long snapper in Morgan Cox and the same punter in Sam Cook. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So, and the two big ones then would be returner, and we didn't do punt or kickoff returner. We just did returner. That's it. Yep. And kicker. So, Glenn, I'm going to tell you right now, you have Justin Tucker and Matt Stover. I went with Tuck. I went with Justin Tucker. Are there any disputes there? Did you go different?
No, I went Tucker as well. I mean, right now, Stover has a lot of the records, and a lot of that's, he was a heck of a kicker, and a lot of that's also based on the longevity and the fact that he's had more opportunities. But if we're starting a playoff run, Tucker's had plenty of a track record to tell me that he is the guy. There's no doubt as far as leg strength. Really the only question to me was who would you want taking that kick in the bigger moment? And really, to me, it's a wash. I'd be if I had a 40-yard field goal and I had either one of those guys, I'm feeling pretty good about it going through the uprights. So I went with the longer leg in Justin Tucker. So it was a close margin, but to me, I give it to Tuck just because of the leg strength.
Can you believe? So Justin Tucker's career stats, highest. So the field goal percentage, his field goal percentage from 40 to 49 yards is 90%.
Crazy.
That's insane. His percentage from 50 plus is 71.
If you're 50-50, you're doing something from 50 plus. If you're 50-50. In
a place that is his
swirling winds, it's outdoors now. He's doing it indoors. Yeah, that's what makes Vinatieri. That's why I said the only kicker I would take over Tucker all time would be Vinatieri, and it's because of what he did, and not just big moments, but big moments in horrible weather, and the fact that he was able to deliver. So now I think you're right. The fact that he can do that with the swirling winds in Baltimore, which have only gotten worse with the added screen and seating that they've done, has made it one of the toughest places to kick, and Tucker makes it look easy. So, yeah, got to go with him. But let me ask you this, because I think this is going to get interesting. If you had a kick returner, if you needed a kick to be returned in your playoff run, who's doing it for you, Jimbo?
Gosh, dang it. I know this is the wrong answer, but I don't care. Every once in a while, a coach has a guy that they're just emotionally attached to. And it's not like this guy's a slouch anyway. So I'm going with Jermaine Lewis.
Nothing wrong with that.
I know. You know what? It was hard for me to keep Jacoby off because Jacoby had a heck of a year when we won the Super Bowl and obviously had a great Super Bowl performance. But the crazy thing is between the two, they both got in the end zone in each of our Super Bowl victories. So Jermaine Lewis was my favorite player as a kid growing up. I always wanted to play like Jermaine Lewis. So that was my guy. So Jermaine was my guy.
I mean, it's hard to argue that. I mean, he was a fan favorite. He was here for 6 years. He was electrifying. He did it all. He answered that Super Bowl return with one of his own and kind of shut them down, let the Giants know that it was over. There was no coming back from this ass whooping they were catching. So I liked seeing it. But to me, I got to go with Jacoby Jones. That run he had that Super Bowl year was unbelievable. I mean, it was incredible. It was not just the contributions he made. I know we're talking about a returner, but let's be honest, he made countless big catches as a receiver. Obviously, the Mile High Miracle is something that we'll never forget. The touchdown catch in the Super Bowl where he fell down, got up, was able to make the guy miss and scored. The return in the Super Bowl, I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you want my honest opinion, he should have been the Super Bowl MVP over Joe. And they went with the safer route and picking Joe and going with the quarterback. And he had a great game. Don't get me wrong. But to have a kick return and that long touchdown catch, to me, it's got to go Jacoby. So Jacoby I'll never forget Jacoby Jones's contributions to the Ravens. And although he wasn't here long, he made a big impact in the short period of time he was here.
Yeah, no, I couldn't disagree more. But yeah.
You couldn't disagree more?
Sorry, I couldn't.
You son of.
See how I snuck that in? I couldn't disagree more. I just said it in a nice way.
Yeah.
It would fly.
It didn't get by me, though. I didn't miss it.
Dang it. So, yeah, I couldn't agree with what you're saying more. It was just emotionally hard for me to leave.
I can't blame you. I love Jermaine Lewis. I'm sorry. So, yeah, I like both. I like Jamal, too.
I like all the Lewises that we've ever had in the franchise for the most part.
Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a bad one. Well, we had Alex Lewis, who's now a Jet, but he was okay, I guess, a little bit. He wasn't too bad. But anyway, we're not here to talk about Alex Lewis. But that's it for our offense and our special teams all-time Ravens lineup. If you're going into a playoff run, let us know why we're crazy. Let us know maybe somebody we left off, somebody you'd like to see on. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. And we'll talk soon.
See ya.